What's up, Pirates? Wraith and Jim here with AwakenedTCG. And like our last video, we have a new banger. And today we're going over the winners of OP05. So in the previous video, we went over Bello Betty, Sabo, and Corazon as the losers of OP05. But today we're going over the winners of OP05. And we have Enel, Sakazuki, and Purple Luffy. So three great decks. Three decks that are honestly going to control the OP05 meta moving forward, as we have seen in Asia. And I'm super excited to talk about these. Let's go ahead and get right into this video.
All right, and first up here, let's go over Yellow Enel. So Yellow Enel, as you can see, yeah, that's a good deck. A ton of wins for this deck. Around the same wins as probably Katakuri. This deck and Katakuri are basically the two second to third best in the meta. Very strong, but let's go over the leader effect for those of you that have not seen it just yet. So Enel is going to be a 5,000 power, monocolor yellow, and 4 life. Very interesting, but you will understand once we see the effect. It's going to be opponent's turn once per turn. When your number of life cards becomes 0, you can add 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life, then trash 1 card from your hand. So basically, this leader technically has infinite life if your opponent doesn't have enough swings per turn. If you cannot get NL down to 0 during your attacking turn, there's actually no reason to attack the leader. That combined with the fact if you ever do get him down to 0, Enel can just play these big healing cards like Yamato or Katakuri and put himself back to 1, and his effect is now back online, meaning you have to have at minimum 3 swings at leader to win the game, and you have to hope 2 of those that take life are not devastating triggers that ruin your day.
Yeah, this leader here has basically infinite stall, and some of the cards that are played in this deck just make that stall even more longer, like it wasn't already infinite. And so that's what makes this deck really good. Fast-paced decks definitely get stopped by this, and then as soon as the NL gains board control and you don't have 3 swings, it just favors NL for the rest of the match, and that's how they squeeze out most of their wins, right? You just stall out your opponent, you play board control, let them run out of steam, and then boom, you can take care of them. So yeah, really strong leader.
Yeah, almost like Queen from last set, with just the stally tactics and just surviving and playing big bodies. This one, though, I think is going to be way higher up in the tier list than Queen. But let's look here at a sample winner deck list. This one got first place at a flagship, which is the big tournaments in the East. This one in Japan specifically. But this deck list running, obviously, as you do, a ton of triggers with Sanji, Beige, yada yada yada. And also choosing to run a little bit of the Skypiea package, which are the new cards coming out in OP05. With cards like Gadatsu to get a good body and KO things early, Ohm for free draws into Holy and a development of a 4-6 and a 3-5 in the same play, Thunderbolt, Elthor, and obviously our big bodies, the staples by now, Katakuri, Yamato, and 1 or 2 NL is what these decks have usually been running. But yeah, this is basically a cookie cutter standard NL list with a few little changes and different ratios, but this is what your NL list is going to look like, and this is what you're going to be going against.
Yeah, and then something like this with the holies, that is more teched for Sakazuki, right? The Ohm. These cards here allow you to really flood the board and make it difficult for the Sakazuki to do much. So this honestly is probably going to be the best version of Enel, just because it has that better matchup into Sakazuki, which you really need. And as well for Pluffy, it's not too bad to have multiple bodies against that matchup. But yeah, this is definitely one of the standard Enel lists, and I'm looking forward to trying this deck out in a couple of weeks here once OP05 releases.
And next up here, we've got Purple Luffy. Purple Luffy, as you can see, is a winner. Winner of a deck list, fantastic list that put Purple on the map. This deck is going to be devastating playing cards earlier that are way bigger than any other deck. Ramp decks up till now usually didn't get Active Dawn for free. This leader is giving you that active Dawn, which lets you play basically 1-up on curve every single turn, which is going to be insanely strong. And it has a ton of wins to show for it. But let's go ahead and check out the leader. So here we've got a mono purple leader, Monkey D. Luffy, 5,000 power and 5 life, standard monocolored leader. And his effect is going to be activate main once per turn. You can add 1 card from the top of your life cards to your hand, so you have to take 1 of your life, similar to Whitebeard in that aspect. And then if you have 0 or 3 or more Dawn cards in your field, you can add up to 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck and set it as active. So as I was saying before, a free ramp every turn at the cost of a life card, but is that really a cost when it comes with consistency? The reason Whitebeard was so good is because he's getting these life every turn while being a 6k leader, and he's always seeing the cards he needs to see with a massive hand. Luffy is now doing the same thing every turn, as well as having a benefit and ramping every turn and playing bigger cards. Yeah, this leader is going to be a problem.
Yeah, 100%. That ramp effect alone makes it so much easier to, just see cards and not only see cards from the ramp because you put it to hand, play on curve that's not really supposed to be your curve. And if you do this effect 2 times, it's basically like you passed up a whole turn and now you're playing at a turn a head's worth of Dawn, which is pretty insane. This deck does falter to Sakazuki because this Luffy loves to play a card, a big tall card, ramp next turn, play another big tall card, and Sakazuki is just so good at Dawn minus, get rid of it, Dawn minus, get rid of it, so you can never really keep a board, so it does get difficult in certain matchups, but I do truly believe that this is the second best deck in the meta, right behind Sakazuki. So it's gonna be very interesting to see how well it does in our meta, because our meta always does change up a little bit compared to the East, but it should be exciting and fun.
Yeah, definitely a rough matchup against Sakazuki, but I think it's basically every other deck. This leader just kind of wins. But let's go ahead and get into a sample deck list here that ended up winning a flagship, going 7-1 in Singapore and getting first place. So this deck, pretty standard with a few little weird cards that we have added, including this 10-drop Luffy, which is kind of an interesting card to go for game at the end of the game. But at the end of the day, you're going to have your standard 4 drops. If you don't know, this deck loves to run these 4/6 vanillas, because obviously you want to go first, and then you'll be on 3 Dawn, leader ramps you straight to 4, and then you can play a 6k card when you should have only been on 3 Dawn, which is really, really impactful early game, and basically going to get you fantastic swings every turn if you're not playing against Sakazuki. And then a couple really good tech cards against Sakazuki and other decks such as Enel. We've got Magellan, which is great if you go second. Going second, you'll be at 4 Dawn. When you can ramp first, you'll go to 5, play this card. Your opponent is down now to 2 Dawn, which means they'll be at 4 Dawn next turn, and you already have a 5/6 on board, which is really gross. And the Poly. This card has been showing up and showing to be fantastic in the Sakazuki matchup with all of the 4 costs that it can pop and the perfect curve that you can end up playing this card when you go first. So yeah, standard Luffy list. You'll totally be seeing this deck, and definitely need to be afraid of it.
Yeah, this thing is very rampant. No pun intended. It is such a great deck. A lot of versatility. It has the options to go wide. It has the options to play defensive. It has pretty decent removal. And then obviously the 10 Luffy and the 9 Kaido just pressure board so efficiently that you kind of always want to play those on efficient turns where you can KO a big 6k body, or if you like the Luffy, if you're gonna go for game, gives you an extra turn to swing again. But yeah, no, these lists are going to be very, very, very good going into OP5, and this is a deck that I am going to make and definitely going to try out. I probably won't play it as my serious deck in OP05, but I'm definitely going to give it some games.
And last, and definitely not least, we have the king of the format, blue-black Sakazuki. So Yeah, the wins here go on and on. This is only like one category. You have all of these other ones, and I'm sure this goes over 100 entries. This is the by far best deck in the meta. If you have not heard yet, it is basically unbeatable. It does not have like any bad matchups. At worst, maybe like a little better than even, but that's about it. If you see the cards you need to see, this deck is going to be nigh unbeatable. And let's get into the effect here. We have Sakazuki being a 5k 4-life leader with blue and black colors. A fantastic color combo with the plentiful blue bottom deck effects. But his effect is going to be activate main once per turn. You can trash one card from your hand, and then you just draw one card. So this leader has a free cycle every single turn. If you don't see the cards you need, you can go, oh, I don't need this card this game. Trash it for free, and it's basically a free draw because you weren't going to use that card anyway. But that's not all. That would already been good enough. This card also has when attacking for free, give up to one of your opponent's characters -1 to cost during this turn. Obviously, that is going to be super crucial in a lot of scenarios where you just need that one extra cost just to remove something. Yeah, this leader is just going to go ahead and do that for you and basically allow you to remove anything and everything your opponent plays every single turn.
Yeah, let me piggyback off what you were saying. This, like, first off, this deck can brick, but like you're saying, you know, you have the ability to search with brand new. You have the ability to cycle every single turn. And the good part about this deck is there are certain cards that you actually want into the trash. So if they're in your hand, you should go ahead and trash them and draw a different card. You have cards like Great Eruption, where you -2 on a character for 1 Dawn, mind you, and you get to draw a card, right? So you're basically cycling it out. And sometimes if you're bricked, you definitely want to just go ahead and use that and get the cycle regardless. Maybe helps your hand out a bit. But this card, when you do see its cards, it is the best deck in format by far. There's no debate. This deck is its own tier. Maybe not a full tier 0, but definitely a close Whitebeard comparison. It is a tier 0.5 in my opinion, above everything else in tier 1 like Enel, Katakuri, Luffy, and things of that nature. This deck is the deck to be in OP05, and we are ready for a Sakazuki Mirror Fest. I know I'm ready. I'm definitely been practicing up on the mirrors. It's going to be a great time, and I can't wait to see how that turns out.
All right, and getting into our sample deck list here. This one, a very, very big deck list. This is going to be first place at Osaka Championship Series in Japan, which is, I think, 500 plus. I think it's more than 500 entrants. Might have been 512. But the Championship Series being one of the biggest tournaments in Japan, in the East in general. And this deck took first place. So looking at the list here, we've got a good amount of blockers in Borsellino, Sabo, and Rebecca. A lot of 2Ks, Navy Searchable, Tashigi, Suru, and obviously a lot of bottom deck effects in Borsellino, Houndblaze, and this one actually running 4 of 3,000 worlds, which I just think makes a lot of sense. I think it can brick up a lot, but basically ensuring that you can remove whatever your opponent plays every single turn. And then last but not least, we have our usual king of the meta, Rob Lucci, to remove anything and everything combined with Ice Age, Great Eruption, and any of your other cost minus effects such as Hina or a Hina off of Rebecca. Yeah, we've talked about this deck before, and obviously, yeah, this deck is going to be by far the best deck in the meta. I think the only saving grace is that this deck isn't easy. It is a little bit difficult. There's at least like 5 lines per turn, and you can totally end up doing one that makes your turn go not exactly as it should have gone if you were playing optimally.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely room for misplay on a deck like this, especially with a lot of cards having tricky effects that you really have to understand. And it is definitely a higher ceiling deck. People like to call it the blue-black law because like red-green law as well has very many lines, and you could easily mess one up. And so, it's just practice makes perfect on a deck like this. You really have to understand your lines, understand your cards, to get its full power. And then a deck list like this has the 4 3000 worlds in place for the 4 Kuzans that decks usually run. And so it is definitely a different tech card. But the thing is with the Kuzans, if you're in a mirror match, they're getting rid of those ASAP as soon as you play them, right? So that just gets rid of that. Maybe you play a Borsellino instead, and then your opponent is hesitant to remove it, or just has no bottom decks and only Roblucci's in hand. Then they're forced to just leave it on the board. So definitely some different options in a deck list like this, but I love it. I see what they're doing. They got first place for a reason. And yeah, that is Sakazuki. All right, Pirates, thank you guys so much for watching the winners of OP05. It was a blast sharing some of our knowledge with you guys. Hopefully you guys got some great insight from this video. As we know, Enel, Sakazuki, Luffy, all 3 great decks for you to try out. With that being said, make sure to like this video, comment down below what leader you think you're going to try out. Even if it's a loser of OP05, let me know what leader down below in the comments. Subscribe to our channel. You guys have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.